2, 3, 4.
Sometimes we need to slow it down. Take a look around and breathe. 'Cause these times go by so very fast. Moments never last. Just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Quiet, be still, don't shout. Love is what it's all about. Sometimes when you feel you've had enough, living is just a touch. Just breathe. 'Cause you'll regret when these days are past. Your friend just seen your last. Just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Quiet, be still, don't shout. Love is what it's all about. Just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Love is what it's all about. Quiet, be still, don't shout. Just breathe. Just love. Just love. Just love.
Good evening and welcome to the Just Love Show. I'd like to start tonight by just taking a moment for us all to send our love and all our prayers and healing to the people of Nepal and also to the people of Baltimore. And with that, I kind of want to get right into the show tonight because the gentlemen that I have are not only dear friends, they've been on the show before. It's Harold Becker and John Goltz from the Love Foundation. And Friday is Global Love Day. So they'll share a little bit about tonight about their journey, how Global Love Day started. But I think we really need to spend some time just talking about the healing power of love and how important it is right now, this day that they've created for us all to stop a moment and embrace love. I do want to read something that I wrote on this subject. Let yourself fall truly, madly, deeply in love with everything this experience of life you are being is. Then and only then will you be the experience of life and love you have been longing so desperately for. It's time that we step into the experience of love and life that we truly want to have, and know we are somewhere in the depth of our being. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my very, very dear friends, John Goltz and Harold Becker from the Love Foundation, to the Just Love Show, and let's talk some Love Day. Hi, John. Hi, Harold. How are you guys doing tonight?
Hi, Kent. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. I know you guys have to be completely exhausted, overwhelmed, on, as you said before we got in the air, on what, your 177th wind?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But it's also our 12th year of doing this, so I think we have a bit of a rhythm going now after these many years of experience.
Well, before we get into what's gone on from year 1 to year 12 and everything in between, since it's been almost a year since you guys were first on the show, reintroduce yourself to the audience. It's grown significantly, I think, since we had you first on, and I'd love people to know a little bit about how your journey in love began.
Well, hey, I'll start real quickly. I was in the business world back in the 80s, going to school full-time, working full-time in management. And in 1990, I decided to embark on my own journey. I decided being right for everybody else wasn't making me happy, so I decided to figure out what it meant to be happy. And in that exploration and self-discovery, that shifting from external to internal, I came to realize that love was the unifying force within me, around me, through me, beyond me, it basically was everything. And prior to this, I had no awareness or knowledge of the depth and power of love as it resides within me. It was always an external search before. That kind of fast forward from that self-discovery, we launched the Love Foundation in 2000 as a nonprofit to add to our global vision mission of sharing this very practical, pragmatic understanding of unconditional love. And fast forwarding from that, in 2004, we launched the first Global Love Day as an annual celebration of our humanity as one of the programs, actually our initial and main original program. We now have 10 different programs to encourage, inspire, and share the vision of unconditional love, both for ourselves, starting with self-acceptance, self-love, self-awareness, and then, of course, extending it out into the world around us and beyond. So, in a nutshell, it's an adventure that has been a self-exploration journey, and then simultaneously it's become our opportunity to share our wisdom, our insights, our dreams, our hopes, through vehicles like Global Love Day, which is, again, just remembering to celebrate our humanity.
If I could, before we move on to Global Love Day, and I don't think I've ever asked you this either on the air or in our numerous conversations we've had, was there a certain trigger? Was there a certain moment where you went, yeah, I'm all in for love? What was there a specific thing, or was it a culmination of a whole bunch of things? Was it gradual, or was there just a sudden trigger that said, okay, this is my purpose in life?
Oh, I'll answer that. I actually like to have John answer, because we have similar ways that we encountered it. But for me, it was over a series of self-discovery moments, books, tapes, going within, the catharsis of old negativity, letting go, forgiveness, release, compassion for self, all those kinds of things. Also during that time, though, I took an opportunity and I picked up a book because I was kind of curious. I didn't have a religious background, and the work we do is not religiously focused or politically focused. We were much more universal in our presentation. But I remember picking up one really well-regarded book that was a summary of all the major religions on the planet that had been around for the last several millennia. And this book did a great job of explaining essentially, who the master teacher was, or the teacher, or the icon, the ideal that came along that then spurned and spawned a religion after it. And after going through the 5 or 6 major and several more secondary levels of religions that are on the planet, what I noticed as I put the book down is that every teacher that ever then became a religion, or a religion was based on a particular teacher, the teacher had one and only one message, and that was love. And the religions and the dogmas and the things that were created, the rules, the ideals and everything, were created beyond that original teacher. And it was just such I guess in everything else I was doing, it was just such an eye-opener to realize that if every say, master teacher that's ever walked on the planet that has left a profound and lasting impact on humanity had a singular message of love, then it just became like a realization for me. Then I wanted to explore love. I wanted to know everything there was about love. And I would say for me, that combination, and then perhaps that one last catalyst, set me off on the direction that I was just going to make everything about love. And this would have been the first early couple of years in 1990. And since then, it's been exactly that. But maybe John would like to give his perspective on this.
Well, wow. Harold really covered it all very quickly. Harold and I have been on... Yeah, it's a hard one to follow there, but Harold and I have really been on this journey together, which has been a tremendous gift for us because we've been able to share it as more like a spiritual partnership, that we've been able to help each other. And oftentimes it is very helpful to have somebody else that can see a different perspective, so you can learn through things together. For me, there was a lot of deep soul searching that went on through high school, through college, and things like that. And although I had gone to church when I was younger and stuff, it never quite made sense to me. Even in college, I sort of had to separate out the difference between church, religion, and faith. church being something of a community, extended family and so forth, religion being something that was oftentimes hypocritical, difficult to understand, contradictory, and so forth. And then faith was something that was so personal to me that I didn't want anybody else telling me what to believe. And then being a biology major, I was very scientific. So the idea of like some external masculine figure, meting out punishment didn't make sense to me. But the idea of like electricity is something that you can't see, but you can feel or notice the effects of it. And I thought, well, okay, something like that, I could feel love between me and my friends, So to me, I thought, well, that makes more sense. That to me would be more like a God, that energy connection. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to Florida and met Harold, and we were involved in volunteering for the American Cancer Society and stuff. And both of our parents were going through different types of cancers and stuff. So I ended up reading things like Dr. Bernie Siegel that talked about the mind-body connection and stuff. And then together we started exploring spirituality and religion and New Age and self-help and, all sorts of things, anything that we could get our hands on. And there was a deep emotional catharsis that occurred and an awakening within that. And that awakening was really about self-awareness. It was that if nobody else is going to love me for who I am, then I'm going to love myself for who I am. So there was this deep understanding of that unconditional love really is something, it's really all about self. Nobody's going to give it to me unless I have it within, because you have to have it in order to recognize it. And yes. So from there, from those early days of just self-exploration and self-help and stuff, we did realize it was all about self-love. Well, what does that mean? So then you start exploring self more and more, and how can I love these aspects of myself? And so we went on from there.
I've got a question I want to ask you guys. I was just in Denver, and I'm going to repurpose and reformulate the question a little bit, but this was something I was asking people at the Cannabis Cup in Denver that I was just at. And before I ask the question, I want to share that my feeling is that everything is love. Love makes no judgment as to how we're choosing to have the experience, although I do believe that we all have in our mind an ideal of what that experience of love is. Now, I don't believe that we, in large part, are having that ideal experience. So the question I was asking people is, and this was with regards to cannabis and hemp, with the end of prohibition on cannabis and hemp, how do you see that having an effect on human civilization? Or what changes do you see that the end of that prohibition having on human civilization? And the second question I ask is, what if you could put in one word what hemp and cannabis mean to you? What would that one word be? And I want to repurpose that question, only I want to replace cannabis, obviously, with love, and in both those questions. So if you were to look at the world and say, if everyone embraced their ideal experience of love that they are and would like to be having, how do you see that, what do you see human civilization looking like, or that experience being moving forward? And two, if you could put into one word outside of love, what love means to you, what would that be?
For me, I think because I started out with the notion of the core message of love, but in fact it was more than that, especially in the deeper understandings and the more I delved into it, that love as we have known it and we share it even presently in society has really become a cast-off word. We've lost any sense of meaning in the word of love. We use it in all kinds of ways, verbs, nouns, adjectives. We share it as, I love my career, I love my spouse, I love my job, we love our car, we love to love, which is physiological. We look at it as romance, sex, as emotions, as feelings. And yet what I was finding is that this universal level of love, this unconditional level of love, is really of a non-duality, non-polarity. It's not black and white. It's both of those and neither of those. It's not yes or no, right or wrong. It's both of those and neither of those. And even relating back to what you described, Kip, about the universal understanding of love, I found that here, being American-centric and Western-centric, that if I added the word unconditional to the front of love, when I would share it with people, of course, even when I would think about it myself, I would instantly recognize a different meaning for love. I did this in such a way that I actually decided I would create a more prominent contemporary definition of love, which in a nutshell is, taking the notions of love that we have used and do use to a point of recognizing that love is really so much more than all of these things that we've labeled or we compartmentalize, that love itself is really a way of being. And then adding the unconditional is to say something is unconditional is without condition, without any limit. It's unlimited. So my practical definition was to put these two words together and say unconditional love is that it's an unlimited way of being. And if you couple that with living in the present moment, our past is our memory and our future is our imagination, that this is the moment where we're physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually fully connected, where we're really alive and can make decisions and make choices and be present, literally, if you can go beyond all those mental compartmentalizations, that this practical way of looking at life in an unconditional and an unlimited fashion, to be more present, to look at the world around me for what it is rather than for what I've been told it should be or what I think it should be or what others describe to me what it should be. I learned how to become much more present in my own life and be much more engaged with my surroundings for what they are rather than what I want them to be or what I think they should be or what they seem to be, perhaps in my mind or in the minds of others. That same freedom that I have come to understand by being in touch with that level of universal love, if I extrapolate it out into the world and say if others would realize this same universal understanding and could be more present in life and be more in the moment with the natural flow of love that's already within them, then our experience on the earth would rapidly change to one of compassion and respect, unity, oneness, recognition. There would be respect for each other, for our journeys, for our pathways. And the word that, to answer the second part, I think would be, the outcome of that would be a sense of joy. So the unconditional love really would lead to a sense of universal joy, that we would actually be enjoying the planet. We would be taking wonderful care of ourselves, wonderful care of each other, wonderful care of our planet. It all comes naturally when universal love is understood. It's all convoluted and completely destructive and disruptive when we are detached and
yes,
disconnected from everything. So for me, the unconditional love is an unlimited way of being, and then that morphing into joy is really what I feel we are here to have as an experience on the planet.
And John?
Well, I can certainly add to that. Early in our journey, we read a book called 2150 AD by C.A. Alexander. It's no longer in print. But the idea of it was that this gentleman was in 1976, and when he would fall asleep, he would wake up in another body in the year 2150. And he would go back and forth between two bodies, and it was sort of like a comparison of the current day society and what they called macro. There was macro island and micro island. Macro island was this world where essentially people would almost call it a utopia. But it's like a vision and driving force that Harold and I have, even behind the Love Foundation and Global Love Day, is that we want to see, and we do see, a world where people love themselves unconditionally, and from there, from that foundation of unconditional love, they build their lives. What does that mean? Well, it means that people are empowered, they have self-responsibility. Things like our extreme level of laws and rules and incarcerations and all that kind of stuff starts to retreat, because people are taking self-responsibility, and you no longer need that extreme level. And we oftentimes talk about old energy and new energy. The old energy is the way it's been, and the new energy is opening up into more freedom. And with this new energy, people start to think for themselves. They start to crave freedom and not to be told what to do. There's a greater recognition of diversity, in not just in the color of our skin, but in, say, how people learn, and our levels of autism and things like that, where it's almost more of like a multidimensional consciousness. Well, people in old energy don't understand it, because we're very linear. We're very, book learned. You have to memorize these things. And somebody with autism might be very multidimensional, might be very intelligent, but it doesn't register to a linear mind, because they're working out of a different level. And I really feel that the new earth embraces all of that. There's a place for everybody. And Harold used the word joy, but you could use any number of adjectives that would be joy, compassion, thriving, a deep connection with the earth where people live in greater health and well-being. So I know it can sound quite utopian, but Harold and I actually feel very comfortable in that situation. And this old earth energy, as you started out the show talking about some of the challenges that are going on in the world. But even there, like in Nepal, out of the tragedy comes a tremendous amount of love and compassion and goodness and
Absolutely.
Stuff. It doesn't make up for the people that passed, but that those energies of love and compassion are right there in the middle of all of it. So,
I agree absolutely. A couple of comments before we move on. One with regards to the marginalization of the word love. We've unfortunately, and we've talked about this before. All we have is our words, and words to me as a writer and a musician and a lyricist, they matter. And we've allowed so many of our words that are so important to us to be able to communicate to become marginalized. And as we sometimes I've shied away from using any sort of quantifier with love. I just want love is automatically, to my mind, unconditional, but I do understand why we need to use these qualifiers to help people understand how truly infinite love is. In fact, is love synonymous in many ways with infinity itself? To me, it is. And then Harold used the word a couple times, experience, and that's something that I've really been delving a lot into the idea of what are we if in fact everything is illusion, and we come and we have these different experiences. What are we? What is real? Well, what is real, at least to my mind or to my feeling these days, is just that, the experience. And what does that mean? Well, to me, it means that all of creation is God, infinity, however you want to call this infinite unknowable that we are innately a part of, it's God's expression, God experiencing herself, and how blessed we are to be that shared experience with God. And so these moments that we have, that's what's real. And so then I think what we've been doing to this point, rather than being, is we've just been going along and letting the moments happen without consciously deciding with our awareness how we're going to be before those moments occur. Because if we haven't decided how we're going to be, then the moments determine for us how we're going to be. And it's not important what, why, or where. What's important is how. No matter what experience you ever choose to have, whatever role you choose to play, it's always going to be the how you're having that experience that matters. It's always that experience of that moment that is real. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you guys. So tell me how Global Love Day came about, what was the inspiration for it, and what was the first year like? And then what were some of the highlights over the past decade? I mean, the past 12 years.
Global Love Day was really the first inspiration that came about 3 years after we launched the Love Foundation. We launched the Love Foundation as a nonprofit, and one of our original ideas, we knew we had the vision, mission of inspiring people to love unconditionally, but we really didn't have, and you have to go back to 2000, or the year 2000, so, we didn't really know how we were going to do this. We had some vague senses, and one of the things that we were aware of is like the idea of awareness and repetition. For example, we thought of perhaps having a nonprofit and getting a public service announcement billboard campaign where we could put up, a potent, powerful, positive word, or unconditional love, or love unconditionally, or something like that on a billboard that drivers could pass by for, say, 30 days, to and from through the city or something like that. Well, we didn't ever really go through that particular experience and never really manifested it. But then in 2003, I woke up one morning, literally in the middle of the morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had this full understanding of Global Love Day as May 1st, and that this was an opportunity for us to share this vision, but on a global scale. We'd always envisioned the Love Foundation to be global in its nature and never saw it as a local grassroots type organization. We saw it more as a global vision, and then it would be acted upon locally, perhaps through others. So when Global Love Day came as this idea, I spoke with John about it, and then, he liked the idea, and then we didn't talk about it for a day, and then I asked him, I said, so what do you think about, this idea of Global Love Day on May 1st? He said, well, I thought we were doing it. And I said, well, that's interesting. Let me go ask the board. So I asked the board, and they were all overwhelmingly in favor of it. And so we decided this would have been the end of November of 2003. We would have the first Global Love Day on May 1st, 2004. And again, in that vision of doing it globally, we actually, as opposed to working in our local communities, and getting the word out, we started going out on the internet, and we started reaching out globally to peace organizations, like-minded organizations, people and groups and associations that were, say, peace-oriented or humanitarian-oriented, and we started introducing this idea of Global Love Day. And at the same time, we decided to launch an art essay poetry invitational that we also do each year in conjunction, so that we could reach children from kindergarten to college. So we kind of launched both in December, January, and by Global Love Day of that first year, by May 1st of 2004, we had reached out to people in, I think, 35 countries. We had, with responses from people in 35 countries, we had 12 proclamations that honored the tenets of Global Love Day. And the very first proclamation, we were in Tampa at the time, based out of Tampa, but our very first proclamation came from Rocky Anderson out of Salt Lake City, the mayor of Salt Lake City at the time. And we were just really quite amazed and impressed. We invited mayors and governors, and within that first year, that vision, we were able to have 12 proclamations created. We also had an unexpected experience where we assumed, being kind of Western-centric, American-centric, that we would probably appeal to American-speaking and English-speaking countries, America, Canada, Australia, and then perhaps England, and then, into Europe. What we actually ended up getting was tremendous response from the African nations and from the Middle East. And in that first introductory month of January, we had a young mother, single mom out of Kenya approached us and said, "I'd like to be your local coordinator." So this new concept of having voluntary country coordinators that represented us and our vision on their national level was something we hadn't expected. And within a couple of weeks, we had another one from Nigeria. And in that first year, I think we added 8 coordinators. And to fast forward with both of those, in 2014, in 2015, gosh, we've jumped another year. 2015, we just crossed over 475 proclamations from governors, mayors, city councils throughout the United States, Canada, and beyond. And we have 58 country and state coordinators, 38 country coordinators that volunteer for us, and the rest are U.S. state coordinators. So in this little seed idea, sharing it, looking at it as a global vision, and that initial impulse, we've acted and grown upon that initial impulse year after year that repeats new people, new experiences, events. We've held events, others have held events. Each year it's a unique set of circumstances. John, I think since you've worked a lot with our website and you've posted a lot of the pictures, maybe you can share some of the events that have happened over the years.
Well, I think one of the things that we're probably most proud of and probably have the least amount of proof or evidence of is that we've introduced the idea of unconditional love into the dialogue of humanity. And of course it's always been there, but it's become more and more prevalent, especially in let's call it spiritual circles and stuff, where they're talking about a variety of things, healing and forgiveness and stuff, that it is really all coming back to unconditional love. And we just keep continually putting out that message of unconditional love. And Global Love Day is an opportunity to sort of not just celebrate it, but really put out something that people can pick up on, and it makes it more personal in that way. Errol, what did you want to know about images?
It actually was some of the events that we've actually had in the past, but actually, as you said that, I was reminded, our core essence and the biggest compliment for Global Love Day that anyone can give is simply think and feel and be love throughout the day. In other words, anyone can participate with Global Love Day. It need not be a large-scale event or even a small-scale event or anything of that nature. Global Love Day, the beauty of it is we're not actually suggesting how people actually do the day themselves. In fact, we're much more inspired by the way people choose to experience Global Love Day for themselves. And then if they choose to share it with family and friends or even go on a community-wide scale, that's even more interesting for them that they can have multiple interactions. But for us, it's enough for people to just simply throughout each May 1st, and then of course, ideally, the experience of May 1st is that we carry it into every day of the year and every day of our lives. But the symbolic days are uniting of humanity around the world, that if you're simply wanting to sit and meditate, if you want to, pass a flower along, if you want to go, visit an orphanage, if you want to go hike up a mountain and commune with nature, it really doesn't matter to us. The idea is that being aware of love throughout the day and reminding ourselves of love throughout the day and being love, and then following through in the inspiration is as important as when 1,000 people gather in Cameroon, for example, or 150 of us gathered one year in Tampa and had this beautiful all-day festival, where we had music and singing and presentations and face painting and the whole 9 yards. We had everything. How we celebrate is unique unto ourselves and to the community that we want to express it through. But the beauty of Global Love Day is just the simple remembrance of love begins with me. And certainly on our site we have a lot of pictures that are indeed inspiring. And yet, like John said, perhaps one of the greatest legacies over the 12 years is to see how many people now contemplate unconditional love, universal love, divine love, oneness, peace, in ways that I don't think they really ever did before.
And I think it's really important that about focusing on love and taking the time to focus on that aspect within ourselves and without ourselves. And it's something that, we spend so much time concentrating on a lot of negative things and a lot of fear-based things that sometimes feel like, oh gosh, where am I going to find time to focus on love and do that sort of work within myself? But it's so important that we do that. And if we just look at it, okay, I'm going to replace all of these negative feelings I have or fearful feelings I have, and I'm going to, every time those come up, I'm going to think about love. And I think that Global Love Day is a great day for you to start that practice. But I was going to ask you, why May 1st?
Because that's what I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning with.
Well,
literally.
It's funny.
It is interesting. Our beloved friend and self-proclaimed research director, Lannis Loveday Chidell, her maiden name literally is Loveday, and she was a part of us, before we actually conceived of Global Love Day. She actually has done a lot of research and did a lot of research in the first years, and she actually found that, we didn't recognize, first off, I should say that, and here in America, we did not recognize May 1st as Labor Day. Labor Day in most other Western nations is May 1st, where ours has been placed in September. And the reason other Western-focused countries focus on Labor Day on May 1st is because there was actually a labor incident upheaval here in America. And I think, the wisdom powers to be to move it away from that, people wouldn't remember it. But in other Western nations, they celebrate May 1st as Labor Day. When we found that out a few weeks after we launched Global Love Day, we didn't feel that we were actually, competing with something that was already going on in many other countries. In fact, we felt the essence of Labor Day was that people really wanted to unite in love, and perhaps narrowly focused with the labor movement, but in fact the essence was this universal love. And her further research found that, as May Day, Maypole Day, various other rituals, even going back to pagan times, whatever, there's been a focus on May 1st. Going even further back, she happened to find references to the fact that May 1st had in fact been something very closely akin to a love day, something akin to a universal Assumption Day, or a day where everybody sets aside their differences. So that's somewhat unbeknownst to me, because I certainly did not study May 1st, prior to going to sleep that night, and I woke up with this idea. The combination of this is that it's almost as if we're restoring a very long-held ancient tradition that happened to be between the equinox and the solstice.
Well, there's a whole bunch of
That's about the
interesting.
midpoint.
There's a whole bunch of interesting things in that. I was talking with White Eagle from the Whirling Rainbow Foundation the other day, and we were talking about how I had 2 consecutive conversations, worlds apart, about toiling with the sweat of our brow. So it's interesting that this happens to fall on Love Day, and the whole toiling with the sweat of our brow is not really the way that we're supposed to be having this experience, and not the way most indigenous peoples have had the experience. In fact, the other conversation I was having outside the conversation with White Eagle was with a friend of mine named Doug Stonebreaker, who runs a ranch, and we were talking about opportunities in Hawaii with beef and things. And he said part of the problem that, the reason Hawaii does things the way they are is because most of the people that are native to the islands, they don't want to work a 9-hour labor, go out and labor in the sun and the toil with the sweat of our brow. And that's one of the things when I was talking with White Eagle that she thought was going to be coming to an end. But as I was looking up the numerological significance of the day and the year that you picked it, one, it's fascinating that it's 2 6s, so you've got May 1st and then 2004, and we're now in the 12th year of you having this event, so that's kind of interesting that we're having the conversation. But then when you break it down to that comes to 12 and number 3, The number 3, and this is just a long part of a much longer article on the number 3. Number 3 resonates with the energies of the Ascended Masters and indicates that the Ascended Masters are around you, assisting you when asked. The Ascended Masters help you to focus on the divine spark within yourself and others and assist you with manifesting your desires. They help you find peace, clarity, and love within.
Cool. Yes.
So I'm going, well, that's pretty interesting.
No, yes, and the global update. If you think, like, even in very linear terms, when we talked about the basis of all the various religions, they were master teachers, ascended masters, master teachers, however you'd like to look at them, and they had a singular, clear vision and message of love. And in many ways, I could say yes, we even to the point where we have shared. Our Global Update, our Artistry Poetry Invitational, things that the programs we have, we set the tone and the vision, and the essence is always based in love, and we don't really say how people should interpret it. And, I give a very, unconditional love is an unlimited way of being, is a very open-ended general definition, yet it's one that can be focused upon and used as a mantra, for example, in our daily life thought, our life perspective, as a way to ground ourselves in the present moment without conditions, without attachments, so that we can be more present, be more fully aware. We're not in our head while we're having a meal, we're not in our emotions while we're having, an experience, that we can be really genuinely present. So in many ways, I could say that clarity, that universal vision, if you want to say, Ascended Master, this would be a symbolic representation of all of that. Global Love Day is really a symbolic day. I mean, people frequently, especially now on social sites, will comment under our Global Love Day saying, well, this should be every day. Well, we totally agree. Yet our work, our service through the Love Foundation is to take something that is completely not even looked upon in mainstream society and cultures around the world, and simply give ourselves a focal point so that we can start to remember that it really is all about love. There is definitely a future where Global Love Day simply disappears, dissolves because it's no longer needed, as does the Love Foundation. When humanity becomes aware of love and embodies love as they are naturally intended to, or naturally have the capacity to, then our purpose of bringing it to the outer consciousness and the attention goes away. We're no longer in need of service because we've completed our activity. For now, based on the way humanity is operating in tremendous duality and polarity, focusing on the rights and the wrongs, the goods, the bads, the ups and the downs, I think it is vitally important that there's a voice for this third language, and this third language is the language of love, which, like I said earlier, it doesn't embody the singularity of polarity. It embodies the wholeness of everything. It's inclusive of all of it without attaching itself to any of it. And from that, as we've come to understand, as you've come to understand, John, and many of us have come to understand, that when we embody love, the natural expression are all these qualities of compassion, of joy, of respect, of tolerance, of forgiveness, of thriving, of unity, of beauty, of harmony, of just a countless of grace, dignity, integrity. I mean, these are the aspects of the qualities of love that come out naturally when we allow love to express from the depths of our being as who we are. And it's no longer reacting externally.
And isn't it interesting, as John pointed out, that you even look at what, has happened in Nepal, and you see this in so many of our disasters. That's when love shines. And, we get so caught up in the disaster. I'm so glad that John pointed that out, that you truly get to see love take place, and all of those qualities that you just described manifest themselves quite naturally when we stop, when we're in that moment of just needing to care for one another. Nothing else matters but that love for one another.
Everything that we have, our rituals, our class systems, our delineations, our separations, in crisis like that, it instantly levels the playing field. And at that point, everyone work side by side, and this is what's always fascinating to me, naturally. It is naturally our innate beingness is to serve each other. All this other crap that we've created in reality is really not natural, and we have to work really hard at creating the separation. But when Mother Nature steps in and levels the playing field, we instantly come into that common, collaborative, harmonious resonance.
Well, we become like the schools of fish or the birds that fly in unison. How do they do that? They don't think about it. That can't be conscious. Otherwise, they'd be running into each other. And we seem to fall into that way of being when when all that we can focus on is actually caring for one another. And it, as you said, it just comes naturally. And it makes a lot of sense that it comes naturally because that's what every cell in our body is doing. You know, if every living part of our bodies and all the organisms within our body were to function the way we're functioning right now as individuals, we wouldn't be alive. There would be no reflection in the mirror to look at, but they're doing what they need to do, working as one to make us a living being. And I think as we move closer to embracing unconditional love, and when we see it manifesting in at times of crisis, we see that we are one thing. We are all individual things that are all part of this one thing that make up this beautiful whole.
Actually, if I could, I read the 6 tenets of Global Love Day. This was the original vision. It's the core essence of the proclamations, which, again, we have no political clout or intention. So when we reach out to mayors and governors around the nation and beyond and other nations, we simply extend the invitation universally. And 95% of the time, they either use the words that we've shared as the proclamation, or even this year in particular, we've noticed several have taken our tenets, and many of them have ones that have actually done these proclamations in the past, and they've made them very personal this year for their community, their county, or for their state. And we find that even more endearing because to make it personal for their, and let me just use their words, constituencies, for their residents, for their citizens, it makes the power of our vision even more, I think, impactful because they're owning it for themselves, which is exactly what we'd like them to do. But the 6 tenets that we started Global Love Day on is we are one humanity on this planet. All life is interconnected and interdependent. All share in the universal bond of love. Love begins with self-acceptance and forgiveness. With respect and compassion, we embrace diversity. And together we make a difference through love. And those 6 tenets have been the guiding force and the leading vision. And, you know, it's said in words, as you mentioned earlier, sometimes we have to use words, and sometimes we have to use words that are universal in nature, that, you know, can cross cultures, cross borders, and be understood by a broad segment of humanity. And we feel that this vision has been strong and powerful in its intention and has been able to reach, you know, we've touched lives in over 150 countries. We've touched people in all countries, but we have regular ongoing correspondence with people in over 150 countries. So for us, I think it's a sound time on the planet where people are saying, yes, we're beginning to remember that it is all about all of us, not just an individual. And as goes, you know, an individual cell goes all of it. Well, if we can heal that individual core cell that is feeling lost or separated and bring it back into the wholeness, then everything thrives from that point.
What, over the past 12 years that you've been having Global Love Day and putting this intention out into the world, and you should clarify what intention is. Intention really is a conscious awareness of the choices that you're making before you have to make the choice. Again, deciding how you're going to be. That's your intention. How am I going to be? And that is the intention you bring to each moment that you have the experience of. What's and this is to each of you, one event or one occurrence or that truly touched your heart, that just made you realize, God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is my purpose. We're on the right path. This is just inescapable proof that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that Global Love Day is meant to be, that I need to keep doing this?
I don't know if I can personally single out, because I think I'm moved by each and every one because they're all so unique. It's the combination for me, to be giving a presentation in Tampa where we had 150 or 160 people in attendance in an all-afternoon affair, and then while I'm there, I'm getting calls and emails. An event had just finished out in Bamenda, Cameroon, and they literally had over 1,000 people in attendance, and I'm standing in Tampa with our vision and what we're doing, and thinking that something that we sent out as a vision had been picked up by a completely different type of culture, and that there was some unique expression in Cameroon that was going on, that they were celebrating the common human theme and the idea of love thousands of miles away in their cultural language and in their cultural disposition, while we were having ours. And for me, I think I'm so closely tied to it that every time I get to see a picture of an event that has happened, or I get word of an event that's going to happen, I'm literally humbled by the idea that something that we placed out there is being receptively picked up on. John, I don't know if you've got any one that stands out more than another.
They're all amazing, and Harold puts out one-line quotes about love every day out on Facebook and stuff, and some of the comments that are under there are just heartwarming. I mean, it's just amazing how, just one line of love can set the tone for somebody's day. But I think for me, in general terms, Harold and I, in our consulting, we work with people one-on-one, and when we've done that, and we will oftentimes be a catalyst, where we will walk somebody through from, the side of pain to the side of releasing that and into freedom. And our question often is, do you love yourself unconditionally? We'll set it up, we'll talk about what it means, we'll talk about, Harold talked about unconditional love as an unlimited way of being, but what that means to me is that unconditional love has come down from its lofty height of, unattainability and stuff, and it's become this foundation from which we build our life. And when we can work with someone and watch them, forgive their parents, forgive the rapist, forgive themselves in this process, and really reach a level where they can genuinely feel that unconditional love, where they've released these layers, it's amazing the transformation that occurs. It's like somebody removing heavy coats, and all of a sudden you see this person shining brightly underneath, and it's really amazing, and it's such a gift to be a part of something like that.
I couldn't agree more. It for me, what keeps me always knowing that this is truth, that this is real, that it makes a difference, are just simple little acknowledgments, bringing a smile to somebody's face. It doesn't have to be the grand gesture. It will be a word. Again, just making someone smile. Like I had an experience, I was just over in Hawaii, and I was in a shave ice store, and there was a young man, maybe 18, and he was taking this mound of ice, and he was molding it down in this cup in this perfect ball. And it was really kind of artistic. And after we got done, I'm like, you're truly an artist. He's like, thanks, dude. And then he walked across the thing and goes, I really mean that. That really means a lot to me. And he was just beaming. And I thought, and every time that happens, I'm just reminded that it's just these simple acknowledgments of one another, appreciating each other for little things that we overlook that make all the difference in the world. And are just constant reminders to me.
When we become our own best friend, which most of humanity has been so estranged from themselves that it's not even conceptually an awareness. But really, when we become our own best friend, we become best friends with everyone around us. And in our journey, because we've embodied the realization of love in every waking moment that we can possibly, keep it in our forefront of our consciousness, for us, we become very intimate with our surroundings and the people around us, whether we're standing in line for a brief moment at a grocery store or a post office, or if we're out in nature, or if we're out in a public event or something, that has us outside of, say, our own home. But for us, we just recognize the unity, the oneness, and it's because we recognize it in ourselves. And that's why we can't put a too light a point on this, is that we talk about celebrating our humanity, but it really does begin with self-acceptance and forgiveness through and through with ourselves. So until we've really, come to that level where we are genuinely unconditionally accepting and loving of ourselves and really reconnecting with the love that's already within us, we stop seeking love outside of ourselves. Instead, we give love, and then when we give love, we get love back.
Yep.
The reverse is what most of humanity is doing. They're looking for something outside of themselves, and they're never feeling complete and whole, never realizing that all the while it's right inside them. I mean, and these are things I think, I chose to go off on this direction in my life, leaving the business world and everything kind of behind, was because these were very practical life skills that I was never taught. And once I learned them myself, I realized, well, this is something I think everybody should be aware of, because it makes for such a completely different experience on this planet when we become aware of ourselves. We're aware of our thoughts and our feelings. We're aware of the love that's within, that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings constantly seeking a spiritual experience, that we already are the embodiment of love, so we don't need to run around looking for it in other people, that we have it within, which means we can give it out unconditionally. And therefore, if we're giving love unconditionally, we're not going to attract the negative experiences. We're not going to have people abuse us and take advantage of us, because we simply are not at that vibratory level anymore. And I think, we jumped from that self-awareness into kind of this global vision sharing rather rapidly.
And I believe it or not, guys, we have gone through the whole hours, and I want everyone to know where to, not a surprise. And I look forward to talking to you guys after Global Love Day so we can catch up on everything. But I want everyone to know where to find out more about Global Love Day, where to get involved, and then tell us your song to play this show out with. And thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
A pleasure and an honor. TheLoveFoundation.com. GlobalLoveDay.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and everywhere else. We're out there everywhere. Just Google the Love Foundation if you can't find anything, or Google Global Love Day. We're on Wikipedia also. And then our closing song is A Different Kind of Love Song by Cher.
Love you both very much.
Thank you, Kip.
You again.
Thanks, Kip.